Hi there, welcome to the latest episode of my 10-minute moan. And the topic of this 10-minute moan is this true story behind the sudden complaints about Raynor and her house. And the big story is not the tax dodge she's done. The big story is why it's suddenly coming to light now. Because there's far more behind this story than many are giving consideration to. And before we come on to the story, could you do me a favour? A few people have noticed that they are suddenly unsubscribed to the channel, and more importantly, the notifications have stopped coming through when I put out new videos. So if you're someone who watches a lot of the channel, just double check the subscribe button is already hit. And if you have notifications turned on and you want notifications, just double check you're getting them. Thank you. So what's happening recently is there's a lot of this story about. And this is a story. When you Google Angela Raynor, it is £40,000 stamp duty bill, blah, 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 right? Everybody's demanding a sleaze inquiry into Raynor and all these things. Because one of the biggest stories over the last 48 hours was previously that she'd apparently not paid stamp duty at the full rate that she should have for a new property. And suddenly today, she's put her hand up and said, and admitted it. I always wonder why stories come out in the first place and why the timing. And the timing of this one, although the story is credible and does deserve to be in the public domain, I always want to consider the timing and what's really behind the story. Why is this story suddenly that important that we need to know about it when there's thousands of things happen that we don't need to know? So why is it important to some people that this story is suddenly in the centre of all our minds? And that's actually quite simple when you take one step back and look at what else is going on with Angela Raynor. Now, some of you will be aware that she's trying to get a bill put through. It's called not the Mayor Bill, but it's called the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Bill. And there's a lot of things there that we're told are very good for devolution of power to councils, etc. in England, and I believe England and Wales, right? So that's how the bill has been sold. And guess whose name's on the bill? Well, that's Angela Raynor. It is her bill that she's getting passed. Now, the bill has a lot of things in it. One of them, not a lot of people are talking about, and it is this part of it, where there is a block to Sadiq Khan for running as an MP while mayor. But it's not just Sadiq Khan, because in this bill, although it does give a lot of powers to mayors and councils, there's some strange things in it. And it appears that Angela Raynor has moved to block Sadiq Khan's chance of returning to Parliament by blocking him from running as an MP while he's the mayor. The Deputy Prime Minister has put forward a bill that would prevent anyone who from serving simultaneously as the London Mayor and a Member of Parliament. But it goes further. The legislation effectively closes off Sadiq Khan's most direct path back to Westminster, limiting his chances of returning to the Commons before the next general election. So it does, however, it's not just the London Mayor. Under the proposed law, a person is disqualified from being the mayor if the person is an elected member of a legislature in the United Kingdom. So it would in fact stop all mayors from becoming MPs. Now, why is that important? Well, it's very, very simple. Andy Burnham, for example, another person who is a mayor of Manchester. Two men who would quite fancy being the Labour leader. Now, it's quite common knowledge, and it's not a big secret, that Raynor fancies being the next leader of the Labour Party. But the Labour Party have a rule that the leader must be a serving MP. So if anybody's to challenge Raynor to be the leader of the Labour Party, should anything happen to Starmer, it can only be someone who is actually in Westminster. And there's already been suggestions that Sadiq Khan and Andy Burnham would quite like to be the leader of the Labour Party. Therefore, either of them would first of all need to be voted in to Westminster. Angela Raynor, by passing this legislation, is effectively wiping out two potentially biggest, but actual, candidates that could challenge her from being the head of the Labour Party. Now, the Labour Party in Westminster haven't got many great candidates that could be the next potential leaders. And it is arguable that Andy Burnham and or Sadiq Khan would potentially be bigger rivals if either of them were sitting and able to be the leader than anybody else who's currently sitting as an MP. Now, the timing. The story about the House sort of came about when the first reading was coming to Westminster of this bill. We only need 3. Guess what happened yesterday? Well, that's right. Let me just get this screen up. The vote was taken and passed on the second reading of this devolution power. Some 365 MPs backed the bill with 164 opposing. So it goes through its second of 3 readings. And within 24 hours of that, we're suddenly faced with the possibility of Raynor losing her job as an MP. Because what's happened today is she has admitted it. She's said that, yeah, she has. And I'll come back to the reasons and stuff and people trying to cover it up, which is pretty potty as well, and excuses about why she's blameless in this. I'll come back to that. But what's happened today is she's admitted that she did not pay tax on it and she probably should have. So she has referred herself to the Standards Commission, right? And there's people calling, rightly or wrongly, for her to be dismissed. This is the day after the second hearing. What I've noticed some commentators, some who are trying to justify her actions and protect her, are saying, but she took legal advice. When she bought the house in May, she took legal advice, and legal advice was she didn't need to pay stamp duty because it was to be her only property that she owned. She didn't need to pay the full amount of stamp duty. She saved herself about £40,000. But it's came to light that she's got quite a complicated ownership agreement through a trust for her family home, which she shares with her children. Now, anybody that's looked at it now, when all the information is disclosed about her trust situation, are now saying, no, you need to pay the full tax. Because the legal advice you're given can only be based on the facts that you provide. So if you tell a lawyer that it's my only residency that I own and I've got no other financial input or benefits from any house, regardless of its trust situation, then you would be told one set of guidelines from a professional. So if you don't tell a professional all the facts, then he can only give you his professional opinion based on the facts you've gave him and the facts you've omitted to give him. So there's no defence to say, but Angela Raynor gave everybody the opportunity to give her legal advice and she acted on that advice. But that advice is only given on the assumption of what she's told them to be factual. So she's evidently and obviously not given the professional advisors the full picture, or they would come up with the same answer and the same advice that they're giving her now, that she does kind of have to pay the £40,000 that she prevented paying in May when she bought the house. So the whole thing's just nuts. The excuses used for her oversight, right? But the timing is not missing with me, because I've been involved with stories where political parties have wanted stuff put out and it actually comes from within that party through a different set of hands and into people who will tell the stories when there's people in the party want to do themselves in. So Angela Raynor basically is putting a rope round her neck because it's evident she wants to be the leader, so she'll have Starmer against her. It's obvious she's trying to knock out the possibility of your Andy Burnhams and your Sadiq Khans from opposing her by this bill. And now, funnily enough, and I'll guarantee you the leak of information will come from or have came from people within the Labour Party, because that's how politicians act, right? You can't trust any of. So if you want, bear in mind what I said at the start, that some people are not getting notifications and finding out they've magically unsubscribed to the channel. So if you want to help the channel and put this into other people's timelines, thumbs up, put the comments below and hit the share button, please, and double check your status in the channel. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe button and notifications. The most important thing of all, unless you're the type of person that forgets to pay your tax that you're meant to on a property, that's your third house, the type of person who it's not a problem for them until you do something that you don't like and suddenly, these bills that you're trying to pass cause you to be a bit upset and no doubt being leaked by people within the Labour Party to pull the wool over and possibly cost one of their own their position in Parliament. They're not these people, but everyone else, have a great day. Cheery bye now.